Taylor has done many acquisitions to expand its product offering and national footprint. The first acquisition after Glen purchased Carlson Letter Service from Mr. Carlson was McPhersons. While this family-owned company in Indiana was a strong addition to Taylor Corporation, the acquisition itself had a few unique challenges that Glen would have to overcome.
One of the first ones that we did was a company called McPhersons. That happened because I developed a relationship with the ownership down there. They had a number of problems, and though they were our competitors, they would call me up and ask us how to solve it, and I helped them solve the problem. It always with the idea in mind that maybe someday I was going to buy the company, so why not help them? One day I talked to the wife of the owner. She worked there, and said, you know, how are things going? And she said that they were going to sell the company. And I said, well, I thought you would get in touch with me to do that. So I said, I'll put together an offer for the company. And I did that. I sent that down to them. And then I didn't hear back from them. And that was surprising. I thought they were going to sell it. I should hear from them. So I again made a call about 4 days after that, said, did you get my offer? And what did you think of it? She said, well, we received it, but we've sold the company. I was kind of like, how could you sell the company when I just made my offer? She said, well, we took it to our attorney and our accountant, and they took your offer and said they would do that. They would take your offer and buy the company.
You know, I remember him scooting out of his office and going by and saying something to Dwayne, I believe, that I overheard about. He's making a deal with his attorney or accountant, one of the two, and I'm flying down there.
So as he's literally almost flying out of the office, get me a ticket, I'm going to fly into Sunman, and then I'll have to drive, and so I'll need a car. Okay.
I took it for granted when I got in the car that Linda was going to get a ticket and I would find out what it was somehow.
There's no GPS at that time. I don't even know how he found Mr. McPherson's house out in the country at night. I couldn't even put that together for him. I didn't even know how to find out where he lived. And there's no cell phone, so I can't call him. I can't tell him. He just has to trust that those things are going to be there waiting, and I've got to trust that everything comes together and it is there waiting, even though I've talked and lined it up. That sometimes that goes away.
Yeah, and he worked through the night and sat down with them in their home. Again, another a testament to his negotiating skills.
So by the time I located their house, it was like midnight, and I went up to their house, knocked on the door. They came to the door. She had her evening gown or nightie on, and he had his pajamas on. They came to the door, and they knew who I was, and they invited me in. I went in there. We had a long discussion about that was unethical, that they would take my offer to somebody else. They then agreed to call the attorney, call the lawyer, and ask him to come over. That was in the time frame of about 1 to 2 o'clock at night. They came over. I again went through the scenario, told them I thought they were unethical doing this, and the lawyer agreed. He says, you're right, that was your offer, we shouldn't be taking that. He says, I'm not going to do the deal. And he got up and left. The accountant was still there and says, I want to go ahead with the deal. And it was at that point I made some threats, but one of the ones that probably was my best one was I told the McPhersons, the owners, that you're never going to get your money. And they says, well, what do you mean by that? I says, well, you can go ahead and sell to him, but I'm going to put a plant up right down in the same area. And who do you think is going to do the best? Right now you're losing money, and this guy won't have any money to pay you because he'll lose money every year because I'll be competing against him. They believed that, and eventually told him that they were going to sell it to me.
they do a handshake deal. So I don't know what time, it's 3 o'clock in the morning, but it's a handshake deal. And Mr. McPherson trusts Glen that he is going to hold up his end. And I'm sure at the same time, Glen is thinking, I have to earn this much money. We have to increase sales by this much because I've got to pay off this, but we can do that. And then we'll have these more employees. I haven't figured out the different taxes down in Indiana, but he jumps in. We jump in afterwards. Yep, we can do this. This is what we're going to do. And that's the story on and on. We have printing companies throughout the United States. Almost every one of them was a handshake deal, and we just figured it out.
And finally, the owner said, would you come outside with me? So we left and we went outside. He says, if you would raise your price $25,000, and I'll sell the company to you. And since I was offering him more than $1 million, the 25 was something I could afford to do. I said yes, but he says there's a condition. I said, what is that? He says that you go in the next morning and I never go in that building again. So here I was in the next morning. Actually, it was still dark outside. I remember finding the building, going in the building, having the keys, finding the light switches, and then as employees came to work later in the day at around 7 o'clock, I met, at 4 at a time, I met with the employees and said, I'm the new owner.
Glen came back. He had a deal. He called Fran Doring in his office and he said, Fran, I want you to go out and run it. And the next day, Fran was gone.
Number one, it's in our industry. Okay, it was a competitor, even though it was only regional. I think what he saw at number two was just the employees. The employees were so much like what we had looked for in our employees when it would come to work ethic, innovativeness.
We learned some things at McPherson's in terms of production, especially the way they were doing some things. And Fran made it even better.
We glued our samples into our books, and we did a lot of them, and that was fast. So you dip your finger into the paste, take your finger, touch your catalog a couple places, take the imitation, stick it against the glue, and get it glued. But what they were doing is they had little ketchup bottles or mustard bottles, like you even see today that are in restaurants, filled it with glue, put a Band-Aid cloth, or kind of the wrapping cloth for a sore hand and stuff, over the things. And then you just tap that on all the places where you wanted glue, and it was so much faster than sticking your finger in the glue and doing one at a time. I'm just saying they're little things, but we would do that, and you could save like $40,000 in labor. It just went to the bottom line because there was no other expenses. Little things like that there wasn't a machine or anything, but something that somebody had figured out in their company that was faster than we were doing it.
So McPherson's was the first one, and even though they had quite innovative, being able to bring a lot of our production methods, and then we brought, honestly, we brought some pretty darn good marketing things to them as well. But so that ability to have those better margins through more innovation, I think, really helped us in those first 10 years of growth.
By having another location, we could print it and get it out faster to that whole area, like a whole circle area. And that he just kept adding circles. And then we had the Minnesota circle and the Indiana circle. And getting it out fast was key. It really, really helped.
McPherson was such a good company that we bought it, we lost money when we bought it, and within a year we made money, and every year for probably 10 years, we increased the profits out of that company. And it has paid for itself so many times. And yet it was one of our first ones that we did.